Okay, thank you so much. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. All right, well, I guess we can go ahead and begin. I see some messages here that you're seeking permission to record. Let me make sure that we can do that.
The option should be in the box.
Please stand by. We're just making sure everyone is able to record. Okay, is anybody present who is unable to record that we have not enabled? Because I have some here that I'm sending asks to start video and it's not starting on your end. We are able to have others here recording live. If you're unable to record and are attempting to, please indicate by raising your hand in the queue. Okay, we'll begin in just a moment. Just want to confirm that everybody who is present and interested in recording is able to, or is there anybody who is not? Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and begin. I see that we have about 11 participants from our media partners. Thank you so much for joining us on such short notice. Of the 11 participating, I do have 1, 2, 3 that are not recording. I'm going to assume that that's okay on your end unless indicated otherwise. But that notwithstanding, we can go ahead and begin. And again, thank you so much for accommodating us on such short notice. It's about 1:37 in the morning out here in Washington, D.C. So good morning on our side and good afternoon to all of you back home on Guam. I just finished watching a press conference that was held by one of our challengers, and I wanted to take an opportunity to get on and address some of what was discussed, and of course make ourselves available, seeing how that was the gist of that press conference and a lot of the remarks that were made therein. With regards to to the nature of that prior conference, I wanted to apologize to the people of Guam. Um, our people are going through a tremendous amount of stress right now. We have people lining up for food. We have people worried about where they're going to get their next rent payments. We have people worried about how they're going to make sure their kids are safe when they go back to school. We have people worried about where they're going to get their next, their next paycheck, especially with some of the unemployment expiring, the extra $600. Our people are in a lot of distress, and the last thing we need is a campaign season that's going to be adding to that distress. And I don't know about you, but when I watched that, I mean, of course, a lot of things were said, but myself notwithstanding, I just thought about our people. I thought about just how distressing that whole thing was. And I want to begin first by assuring the people of Guam that we're not going to engage in that way. Um, I know that it was made plain that the negativity is going to continue on that end. We're not going to do that. And I would like to, at this time, if there are any of our supporters listening, I know that the frustrations of some of the statements in the campaign have you reacting, and believe me, I want to react too. But I think we should just all put that away. Let's not add to the distress of our people by having another 30 days of campaigning that's just going to add to that. And so I wanted to apologize on behalf of my challenger, and of course on behalf of all the circumstances for any of the distress this is adding to in the present circumstances that our people are dealing with. I know that certain things were discussed that still leave a lot of unanswered questions, and it's really frustrating on my end because we're going through an adjudicative process, and our challenger knows that. The constant calls for us to talk about it is intentional because they know that we can't. It's just not something that we can do as we need to go through our due process. It is my wish that that the integrity that's being touted by that campaign can extend to also understanding that when someone's going through due process proceedings, that they need to be afforded that, and they need to be allowed to have their day. And I just wanted to add, when I ran against Madeline Bordalio last term, she was under an investigation, and we didn't say anything about that. We allowed her to go through her own due process, and that was just something that we afforded. And I really hope that that's something that we can be afforded. But again, that's up to them. I wanted to talk about the voting record. There's been some negative campaigning ads on that. There isn't a single vote that the people of Guam lost out on as a result of our voting record. We are very strategic in where we place ourselves and in the actions that we take. And absolutely, we definitely want to bring the voting record up as much as we can. But one thing our challenger doesn't share with the public is that, first of all, the whip tells us how the vote is going to turn before the votes are even cast. So we can know in advance when something's going to pass, when something's going to fail. And I assure the people of Guam that there isn't a single opportunity that we lost out on as a result of the voting record. Another important fact to understand about voting is that takes place at a very fluid time. And so you can have a meeting that took 3 weeks to set up, and then all of a sudden you get called for votes. And oftentimes it's a judgment call. It's a judgment call by the representative. Are you going to reschedule that meeting, possibly push it out 3 more weeks in advance? Or are you going to, show how important that meeting is and keep the appointment and make your case clear for what it is that you're trying to address? And so those are some of the tough decisions that we have to make in this office. And it's very easy to try and point out what's not happening. It's very difficult to counter that and say, well, we had to make a tough call. But we did. We made those tough calls. We made those tough calls for the people of Guam, and that's why we were able to get the results that we have for you. We're able to make sure that we're delivering on those longstanding issues that have been unresolved for many years. And the reality is If we push something out for a later time, it's going to cause more delay. And there are certain things that we just don't want to delay. War claims is an example. We came into war claims being an issue by surprise in February when we first took office. We didn't even know that was not closed. All of the people of Guam were under the impression that it was already resolved, and it wasn't. We had to make some very, very tough decisions in order to prioritize moving that through on a timely basis through a divided Congress with an administration of an opposite party, knowing full well that the rules and the circumstances were going to present challenges along the way. So those are the tough decisions that we have to make as your representative. And I put my trust in the results that we deliver for the people of Guam, that the choices that we're making are for your benefit, to ensure that the people are receiving closure on things that they've been expecting for a very, very long time. And we've been employing this strategy very, very effectively. I know that there's questions surrounding the investigation, and again, we can't discuss that. It's very frustrating on our end, but that's just the circumstances that we have to deal with. I do want to reiterate a statement that our attorneys did put out, something that they were comfortable making very, very clear. And this is something, again, that our challenger is completely leaving out in all of the references to the ethics process. And that is that in every single announcement from ethics, they always add towards the end of the announcement a very key sentence. And that is that these proceedings are in no way a validation of the allegations. They're just proceedings. And we need to go through those proceedings in order for the allegations to finally be adjudicated. But the proceedings are in no way an indication that any of them are valid. And I wanted to reassure the people of that, because that's just conveniently being left out in this political noise. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that an individual who has experience and who knows really what's going on is choosing to use this time to mischaracterize it in order to frustrate the people and create anxiety at a time when that's the last thing that our people need. And so I just wanted to address all of that to the community, and also make myself available to any questions from the media regarding any of the items that were discussed, or any other issues that you'd like us to shed additional light on. One final item, and this is also something that's deeply troubling. One of the things that we do not do out here in the Congress is we do not compare what one member is doing to another, compared to another member in terms of the way they represent their constituents. Our challenger is consistently trying to create a level of divisiveness between members of the territories by comparing, what one member is doing versus another, and that's very unhelpful. It does not speak towards the camaraderie that we need to be encouraging, and we're not going to engage in that. We're choosing to represent our people by making tough decisions in terms of being present, and in terms of where we're going to dedicate our time and our energy. And that's what we've been doing. It's been rendering incredible results. It's been quite a blessing, actually. Over $1.5 billion in COVID relief, just under $1 billion in military buildup support, a breakthrough H-2B amendment in the NDAA that really was a huge move forward. And there's a whole bunch of people I can thank if we are given the opportunity to. And of course, war claims and a lot of other measures that we're moving forward. So I just wanted to thank you all for the opportunity, and again, make ourselves available to any questions. I believe you should be able to unmute yourselves if you have a question to ask any member of the media. We did allow participants to unmute. Please go ahead and try again to our members of the media present.
Hello, Congressman?
Hi.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Yes, I'd like to ask if you would be going back to Guam before the election sometime.
I really, really want to go back to Guam. Definitely the election is it's right around the corner. One of the really big things that we have going on right now in the Congress is these ongoing negotiations for the second round of relief. And one of the very delicate areas that we're in right now is the House passed the HEROES Act and the Senate passed the HEALS Act, and now it's being negotiated at the leadership level. And in the past, over the years, that has been a very, very critical inflection point, because if territories are not banging on the door constantly, there is a possibility that we could become a negotiated item and become excluded in final packages. And so that's something that I've been weighing very, very heavily in my decision to be present here. And it's been paying off so far. We're on sometimes 3-4 calls and meetings in a day. And we take every advantage of the opportunity to just remind leadership and remind committee chairs to please make sure that, in these negotiated proceedings, whether we're talking to the folks handling the PPP or the folks handling the mortgage and rental relief or unemployment or stimulus, we always recircle the wagons and say, hey, can you make sure the territories are included in the final package? And so that's the work that we've been doing out here. The reality, and this is something else that our challenger doesn't share, if I get on a plane tomorrow and I go to Guam, I'm going to be quarantined for 14 days at home. Again, those tough decisions of how am I going to make the highest and best use of my time for the benefit of the people that I serve. Being out here, being able to take these meetings and keep us present in these critical times, it's a tough decision to make, but it's the right decision as far as we're concerned, and we're going to continue that until we're comfortable that we've secured the territory's position in the negotiations.
So, Congressman, this is Nestor at KRAM. Good afternoon, or good morning to you. So I take it that you won't be back at this, at least not till before the primary. But Dr. Underwood is asking if is calling you to debate him. To do that virtually.
Well, first of all, we're trying to come back. We had a flight scheduled just for this last Saturday, hoping that we would have some negotiated breakthroughs last week. That did not happen. We're in conversations. We were just in calls earlier today. Again, the intent is to try and get a negotiated outcome by the end of this week. So it's very touch and go. On our end, if I were to get on a plane on a Saturday, of course, if our time zone differences, I'll arrive on a Sunday night. And then, of course, if we want to be present again and be active on a regular basis during the daylight hours out here, we'd have to just be back on a plane back out here to DC. So again, the work is keeping us engaged out here. I've actually not heard a call for any debate. That's news to me. I've never been one to shy away from any of those things. So if that needs to be arranged virtually, we can probably do that. I'm hoping to come back because I know that several community organizations have set up some forums. And again, we had every intent of trying to be back there, hoping that a negotiated outcome would be concluded. But we're having to reschedule those as well. And it's just the tough calls that we're having to make at this time.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to ask, do the House rules preclude you from talking about the ethics investigation?
No, they don't preclude us from talking about it. But while we're in a due process proceedings and we're getting counsel's advice, they're advising us to not discuss it because everything that is put on the record in terms of those discussions, all those things can continue to be factored in. And, in the interest of trying to get this thing resolved as quickly as possible, we're trying to avoid having too many variables added into the proceedings, which have already been taking a while. So that's one of the reasons why we're just following counsel's advice at this time.
In reference to your voting record, you said that you're being very strategic, but as I understand it in Congress, voting is the currency of the Congress. So having missed as many as you have, aren't you losing out, or you're not gaining all that currency?
That is a misnomer that our challenger is spreading. Nestor, we just passed the H-2B amendment onto the NDAA just a couple of weeks ago. We had unanimous votes in 3 different committees from both Democrats and Republicans to include the leadership within those committees. And our voting record has been what it is for over a year now. And so, you know, not only did we have that amendment passed, but we've gotten all the COVID-19 relief through. We've gotten the war claims through, all of that voting record being what it is. And so there is, don't get me wrong, we absolutely would like to bring the voting record up. We've had to make some tough decisions, and that's resulted in the voting record being what it is. But those tough decisions have obviously paid off because currency notwithstanding, we continue to deliver exceptional outcomes on very key issues for our people.
Okay, I'll defer to my colleagues. I don't want to hog this. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
It's Johnny from Candid.
Hey, Johnny.
How are you and your family and staff preparing for the ugliness of this election, considering how concerted the attacks have already been against you?
You know, this isn't our first rodeo. We've been through this before. I remember sitting through a hearing, gosh, 4 years ago, was it? Being shouted at for 8 hours straight by individuals who were clamoring for politically favorable pay raises. Don't get me wrong, that was a very, very challenging experience, but I guess God puts us through these things to kind of, you know, strengthen us to take on what we have to. I am, this has been quite an ugly campaign so far. We're just bracing ourselves for more. Obviously, our challenger made it very clear that, you know, he did it, he's going to keep doing it, and he doesn't feel bad about it. And if, you know, if his strategy is to just continue to put our people through that, that's on him. But we're just going to do what we've always done. We're going to continue to serve the public. We're going to continue to focus on our work. And we're going to trust that, you know, it's always darkest before dawn.
Thank you. Thank you, Congressman.
Yeah, Congressman, this is Steve at PDN.
Hi, Steve.
Yeah, so last week, Dr. Underwood told the Rotary Club that basically you weren't among all the delegates, you were the least active in pushing forward the CARES Act to benefit the territories. Could you respond to that? And maybe could you explain what exactly you did to include the territories in the CARES Act? Well,
first of all, I mean, that's just an example of Dr. Underwood creating narratives that are just not based on fact. He doesn't sit next to me every day and see what I do, and so we know what we're doing. We're regularly in communication, taking meetings and so forth, and having discussions, constantly advocating for key areas of the CARES Act and the second round of relief to include our people. You know, I just find it a huge stretch for someone with this experience to just completely discount all of the amazing achievements that we've made for our people in just the last year and a half. Like in the CARES Act alone, we have unemployment, federal unemployment for the first time ever. You know, we have $200 million in PPP loans being extended to our people. Those are all things that we're able to network with because, like, for example, with PPP, the chairwoman of the Small Business Committee, she's also the third ranking member on the Financial Services Committee, and she's a colleague on the Hispanic Caucus. And so, you know, when we're active in those areas and when we're engaging in those areas, it helps to keep Guam in the conversation. Like another example of using Congresswoman Velasquez, the chairwoman of the SBA committee, she's also Puerto Rican descent. And so, you know, when we're actively also talking about Puerto Rico concerns, we're winning the affinities of those people who have those kind of areas of interest, and those are the kind of on the ground work and relationship building that's helping to make sure that Guam is included in these big picture outcomes. And so, you know, I'm not quite sure what Congressman Underwood, former Congressman Underwood, is basing his comparisons on, but the results are speaking for themselves, and they're being generated. I mean, if the voting record was really such a sinking ship for a Guam delegate, why are we scoring all these home runs? You know, it's because we're actually doing the work and we're actually delivering on the outcomes. And in the end, that's what this election is going to be about, I think. I think the people are going to vote for what's being delivered, not what's being said.
Thank you.
Congressman, oh, sorry. Congressman, want to hear from the Guam Daily Post.
Hi.
Sir, as we're talking about the election and as we move closer to the primary, can you share, maybe moving more towards the actual campaign issues, right? What do you feel your shortcomings are as a delegate, and what is your plan to change those?
Well, definitely the voting record. I would like to bring that up as best we can. Don't get me wrong; we've made tough decisions, and that's part of the result of that. But you know, if we can kind of flip that around, that absolutely would be a plus. I would like to hopefully get a better working relationship with the governor and with a new crop of senators. I'm hoping that this election is going to be a referendum by the people on the work that we've done, and in terms of that, an attestation of the expectations on the local side. You know, for example, we've sent notices to local leadership about how we can be paying essential workers using examples out of Pennsylvania. We've sent letters to local leadership about how we can craft rental assistance using examples out of Irvine, California, all of which using CARES Act money that I think recent reports have indicated we've only spent 25% out of 118 million. That leaves $88 million sitting in the coffers, not being deployed for the benefit of our people. And, you know, we're doing everything we can to make a case for it. I'm hoping that one of the things that we can improve on is being more convincing in getting those things prioritized. Anything that can help the outcomes for our people and bring more relief to our people. If there's something that differently that I need to do, I'll be more than willing to do it. So we're trying, and we're going to keep trying, and I'm hoping that that the election will be a referendum on the effort, and send a message to all of us that you know, let's get the outcomes delivered for our people, and let's stop being taking things too personally.
Thank you, Congressman. And speaking of voting, I know we touched on this a little bit earlier. Are you planning on voting early, or will you be waiting until August 29th to cast your vote?
I really want to come back to Guam. We're trying our best, and you know, as a matter of fact, just tonight we celebrated my daughter's birthday early. She turns 10 on August 29th, and you know, I told her as a baby, I don't know if I'm going to be able to be here. Daddy needs to go home. There's an election. I need to vote, and so we moved things up and we celebrated it early. So we're trying everything we can. It's really the work that's going to be the final determinant of that. I'm hoping that by the end of this week, we should be able to lock things in and be able to inform our people about that. But it's really touch and go, and it's challenging, but I'm going to vote for sure. I encourage everybody to, but when that's going to be exactly is really a moving target at this point.
Thank you, sir. And final question from one of my colleagues. This is not campaign related. Do you have an update on the war claims payments?
Yes, there's been about 3,000 claims that have been adjudicated and payments being processed for those. There's about 700 that remain to be adjudicated. Excuse me. Based on the rate of adjudication that's been taking place, we should be able to close out all claims before or by the end of the year. So I know that there's been a lot of people who have been receiving their federal checks. I know that there are some who are still waiting. I know that everybody who's waiting is really, really wanting their funds, and those cases are being adjudicated on a very expedited basis. I did want to take the opportunity on that subject, Oil, to just let the public know, because I know the challenger also kind of raised that. We can't call the Foreign Claims Settlement Commission and tell them to hurry up. You don't do that. That's political interference. And if you politically interfere with an adjudicated process, you may actually cause them to slow down because they're worried that the political interference is causing outcomes that are not consistent with how the adjudication should be taking place. So I know that everyone's waited too long as it is. It's getting there, and it should be done before the end of the year. That's the way everything is tracking. And I like to thank those who are still waiting for their patience, especially during these times.
Thank you, Congressman. And just sort of one final question. Everyone's watching very closely the discussion in Congress right now and watching to see what President Trump's reaction to the discussions with the new CARES Act to HEROES Act. What are your feelings about that? Do you think we're going to see any additional relief?
I can definitely share that there is a general consensus that there needs to be some form of relief. I can share that on the House side, a majority of the members have a very clear understanding of the extent of that relief. That's pretty much where there's where things kind of get messy, because in the Senate side, I know that even within their own majority, they have a difficult time coming to a clear consensus on the extent of how relief should be extended. The HEALS Act was kind of a rough action to have the Senate put something out in order for the conferencing and the negotiations to kind of begin. But it's really challenging because of the difficulty for a majority consensus in the Senate to really come to terms with what they're all able to agree on. On the House side, again, there's the push for the second stimulus, the unemployment benefits, essential worker pay, funding for the local governments, particularly to be able to pay for the education of the kids and to keep the kids safe, and of course for the healthcare. A second round of PPP for businesses to be able to carry on, because we're so far away still from a normal economy. Those elements and quite a few more are in the HEROES Act. Some of those elements are not in the HEALS Act, and some of the majority in the Senate, even with the HEALS Act, are not fully reconciled. And that's just talking about the Congress. The White House themselves, they have also their checklist. So those items are again, it's a very difficult negotiation process, and we're working very hard to make sure that as things begin moving back and forth, Guam and the territories are not lost in the shuffle.
Thank you, sir.
Of course. We can take any other questions that anybody else might have.
Hi, Congressman. It's Nestor again. I do have a couple of more questions. Can you just elaborate a little bit more on retaining that law firm in Washington and the timing of it, and why you saw fit to retain them?
Well, as we're going through this adjudication process, it's always good to have counsel, and so we're very, very glad that we found an incredible team. Our counsel, they have over 50 years of experience. They've actually been lawyers in the House. Stan Brand was actually a lead attorney in the House under Speaker Tip O'Neill. They have extensive experience in all of this, and so we wanted to make sure that, in the interest of trying to move this along as expeditiously as possible, we have a very, very experienced team to move things along.
And did they give you any indication of how long this might take?
That's a very, very good question. We're asking that ourselves. The reality is that it all depends on the adjudication process. There have been some adjudications that have taken quite a while, and so we're not sure at this juncture yet. I don't have any timelines at this point.
Okay. One question about the governor. She was on our air the other day, and she mentioned that she hasn't spoken to you directly, I guess, in weeks. You mentioned that you wanted to kind of shore up relationships here locally. What would you say to her now, and why haven't you guys spoken to each other through this pandemic crisis that we're going through?
We have no objections to communicating with the governor. She's actually transmitted letters to us. We've transmitted letters back. I think a lot of this is being done in writing because there have been situations where we have dialogue, conversations that just don't turn out the way they should. Case in point, when I was back on Guam back in late, I think it was early December of last year, of the opening of the library and doing some meetings back on Guam, I had a conversation with the governor. And I told her, I said, Gov, I know that we've been going back and forth on this idea of a local program on the war claims, but I wanted to let you know that it looks like we should be able to get this through maybe in February. So just rest assured that we have closure on the horizon. And then just a couple of weeks later, we had a call into session, and then a push through of that same local program, even after we said that there's going to be risk factors associated with that. So I think that we need to get to a place where when we have these kind of dialogue and conversations, that it's going to be acted on in good faith. That notwithstanding, that's when things get put in writing, because we want to be able to illustrate that, hey, look, I shared this with you on this date. This is what I said, and this is what the outcome was. And I think that we can get to a place where we have something more workable. We're going to keep trying. The governor asked us to look into something on EITC, and we looked into it and we responded to her. So, but then again, on that note, again, I just saw a recent press story again characterizing it a little differently. And so it's going to be a two-way street, Nestor. But we're going to keep trying, and that notwithstanding, we're going to keep doing the work out here for our people, and we're going to keep pushing for what's in the best interest of the community, whether that's going to make people happy or unhappy.
How would you characterize your relationship with the local Democratic Party?
Well, we've been doing a very, very good job out here, and we've been giving very, very good guidance on how to help the public. Again, with the Irvine rental assistance, or with the Pennsylvania essential worker pay. Even when we reached out and we said, hey, we shouldn't be using 2018 as the go-to year for stimulus. We should be using 2019 because someone might have gotten a divorce. You might be leaving out entire families. We're really trying to do what the Democratic Party will want us to do, and that's advocate for the people. There's just a lot of institutional politics that I think Guam is going through a transition period in right now, and that institutional politics, as evidenced in some of the conduct of our challenger, that's just going to have to be a growing pain that we're all going to have to get through. But party politics should never be more important than delivering outcomes for our people. And so if we're going to have issues with the party, then we're going to have issues with the party. In the end, I'm going to want to make sure that the public knows that someone is fighting for them and making sure that their outcomes are going to be something that's going to be helping their lives and their circumstances.
Speaking of party politics, there was some that might say or observe that you have aligned yourself a little bit more with some Republicans than Democrats. What do you say to that?
I'll align myself with anybody who wants to work cooperatively to deliver outcomes for our people. The Republican Party has been very helpful in helping us move things along. Remember, we're talking about a split House. We have Republicans controlling the Senate, Democrats controlling the Congress, a Republican in the White House. And in every effort, when we reached out to them and said, hey, can you help us with this? They've responded, even recently with mortgage assistance and with the H-2B amendment. We've had a very, very good working relationship, and it's been helping to deliver outcomes for our people. And I'll work with anybody, Democrat, Republican, or independent, as long as the outcomes continue to show results for the community.
And with the national Democratic leadership, how closely are you working with them, with the leadership of the House, to ensure that Guam's needs or desires are met in the federal pandemic assistance?
Very closely, and again, that's one of the reasons why we continue to be present here. I was just on a conference call with Democratic leadership today, again reiterating the need for us to ensure that territories are included in any final negotiated outcomes. So we have direct lines with leadership, and their responses are always very, very favorable. We just want to make sure that as the ball keeps moving up the field, we don't get left out. So that's just been how we've been working, but leadership out here on the Democratic side of the House has been very, very receptive.
Yeah, and just finally, Congressman, appreciate your time. Just to wrap it up, just to clarify, so you're not sure yet if you're going to be returning, but you would debate Dr. Underwood even virtually if you weren't able to return. And also you cannot make any sort of comments on the allegations, either a denial or anything of that sort.
We're going to continue to remain in order to get the work done. I've been in politics for a little while already, Nestor, and believe me, I would love to be making the campaign be the priority, but that's just not what we're going to do. Things are just too critical at this point. So that's just again a tough decision we're going to have to make. And again, with respect to the proceedings, I can't make any direct statements, but my attorneys made it very clear that they're very honored to be representing us and to be able to address these allegations as they've been presented. So we're very satisfied with the representation that we have, and we're confident that really shouldn't be a factor that is negatively involved in the decision making of the election.
Thank you, Congressman. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Nestor. Anybody else have any questions? We'll take anything. If not, I wanted to again thank you all for making time for us on such short notice. I wanted to reiterate my apology to the people of Guam about the negativity of the campaign. I wanted to reassure the public that we're not going to be playing that dirty game. We're going to continue to focus on the work, and we're going to trust that the outcomes are what matters in this election. And vote your conscience, and really just focus more, not on, at least my advice would be don't let the political noise get you down. Focus on your families, focus on making sure that everybody is just kept close and kept safe and kept healthy. We're going through a pandemic, we're going through an economic crisis. We don't need to be adding to the anxiety. And our office is always going to be available. If you have any questions, send us a message or give us a call. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the trust and the confidence, and we'll always be here for you as long as you have us. Sijulis Maasi, and thank you for the time.